Annoyingly, they were correct. It's very uncommon for a CEO or CTO of a company to need production administrative credentials, but you rarely see them giving it up if they've ever had it. For once, as a security person, I was frustrated by folks having adhered to the principle of least privilege. Vulnerability scanners? Do you run any vulnerability scanners that log into the boxes? Asked Annie, picking up my line of questioning to try and figure out a way into the machines. No, I don't think we've ever done that, Pranav responded, sounding more and more dejected by our barrage of questions. The room fell silent. We were running out of ideas. Perhaps we would just deploy the IDS signature in block mode after all. Although that wouldn't solve all the issues we had with these servers that we were now apparently responsible for, but couldn't access or monitor in any way. It felt like that would be an easy way out of bigger issues, and I didn't want to take that path. Kirsten, can you do some digging around to see if you can find who from Syntatic was responsible for moving those boxes into our data center? If we can track down that person, perhaps they'd have some access? I suggested, knowing that servers don't just magically up and move between data centers on their own. Sure, let me see what I can find, Kirsten responded. Kirsten had a law enforcement background, so she thrived on investigative tasks like this. She was a master interrogator. I cannot believe that someone would just drop a bunch of boxes into our data center and not mention it to the security team, I said, frustrated and shaking my head. I can, Annie chimed in. Yep, me too, Tim added. As much as I tried to discourage pessimism amongst my team, they were right. We were often the last to know and the first to respond, and today was a perfect example of that. I found their boxes on the vulnerability scan, Tim said. Looks like they only just appeared on the last scan we ran, so they are very new residents of our data center. How many vulnerabilities are showing up on the scan? I asked. There's a few, but it's mostly the normal stuff, Tim replied. I'm going to dig into the boxes a bit more manually now to see what I can see. Cool, I replied. I unmuted the Polycom and checked in on Pranav. Pranav, have you heard from Darren at all? No, I haven't. I've been trying everything, came the response on the phone. Okay, well, we're almost at the point now where the only boxes left to patch will be yours, so please keep trying. We have a couple of options if we need them, but honestly, I'd like to deal with this properly, I replied, hinting for the first time that we had some ways of covering Intellit's lack of planning and experience in the incident response space. Okay, still trying. Having a couple of other folks try via Facebook, too. Brilliant, I thought to myself. We've officially reached the point where we're using Facebook as an on-call paging platform. May as well just quit now. Trent returned to the conference room looking very red in the face. I could tell he was not a happy bunny. Everything okay, Trent? I asked, already knowing the answer. Trent checked that the phone in the room was muted before answering. Well, the migration of their servers occurred last week and was deliberately not covered under any of our change management processes, Trent said. This was apparently because Syntatic leadership made a promise to Intellit that we wouldn't interfere with their operations and allow them to continue to operate as a standalone organization as much as possible. They were worried that too much big company stuff early on would scare away their employees. So we host them and are responsible for keeping them secure, but they're allowed to do whatever? I asked. Sounds like it, Trent replied. And here we are, less than a week later. Now I was determined to force the issue about making them patch their servers, rather than using our IDS to block any attempts to use Shellshock against them. I was conflicted, though. Was it appropriate to risk their machines hanging out unprotected for too much longer? They were in our environment after all, and if they could be compromised, there would be room for an attacker to potentially pivot around and access other Syntatic machines.